The detection of the position of something is really important for feedback in a control system, but how do we detect the position of all these different kinds of things? Well, that's really what we rely on sensors for. Sometimes these large proximity sensors are made for the detection of an object across a conveyor belt, or the position of an arm when it's being moved back and forth. But for small components, like pneumatic cylinders or the tiny increments of an encoder, we really need to detect the position, but it's on a much smaller scale. And for that, we use this classification of detectors that are called micro-detectors, usually micro-proximity sensors. This style of micro-proximity sensor, which is rectangular, is very often found inside the edge of a pneumatic actuator, like a robot gripper or a pneumatic cylinder. They can detect the inside of the cylinder once it reaches an end-stop position. Sometimes these are called micro switches. They can sometimes work on optical detection, which means a reflection of light on an object. But obviously that wouldn't work on a pneumatic cylinder, which is made out of metal. It's not transparent. We can't see what's happening inside of it. So those would be magnetic or reed switch proximity sensors. For some other kinds of proximity sensors, I mentioned the encoder. This tiny sensor uses light to detect the transitioning edges of an encoder disc or an encoder strip that's moving back and forth in front of it. Since these are so small, they're called micro switches and micro proximity switches, but the signals that are used are the same as for large ones. On both of these sensors, we see our familiar brown, black, and blue wires that indicate power, plus and negative, and a sensor output that can go to a control system just like any other sensor in our controls. Except they're a whole lot smaller than most of the proximity sensors. They're designed for very specific contexts and situations, and we have to be able to select the right ones to know how to design an effective control system.